Tonight, Senate District 9 is one of the most talked about local races of this election. 20-year veteran and the Senate's sole Republican, incumbent Chang and Slom, faces a strong challenge by 33-year-old former City Councilman Stanley Chang. And we have the candidates for the open seat in the State House representing Chinatown, Kalihi, Iwilei, and Palama. Slom and Chang, Holt and Coakley, they are here and ready to take your questions. This live presentation of Insights on PBS Hawaii starts now.
Aloha, welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now. Senator Chang and Slom has been the Republican state senator representing Hawaii Kai, Aina, Haina, and Kahala for 2 decades. But this year he faces former City Councilman and Democrat Stanley Chang. We'll discuss the issues and the race with both candidates during the first part of our program. Then we'll hear from the candidates for House District 29, which includes Chinatown, Kalihi, and Iwilei. Democrat Daniel Holt and Republican Kaiwiola Coakley will battle it out in the general election. And they're here to discuss their plans for this urban district. We hope you'll participate in tonight's discussion. You can email, call, or tweet your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org. Don't forget to call in your questions early for State Senate District 9, since it will be featured only during the first half of the program. Prior to tonight's show, there was a random drawing that determined the seating order and the order we will use throughout the program. Now to the candidates. Senator Chang and Slom has represented District 9 since 1996 and is currently the only Republican member of the state Senate. That means he is both Senate Minority Leader and Minority Floor Leader. Senator Slom was also President and Executive Director for Smart Business Hawaii, formerly known as Small Business Hawaii, until he retired in 2014. Stanley Chang is the Democratic candidate for State Senate District 9 and is an attorney and consultant who represented East Honolulu on the City Council from 2011 to 2015. During that time, Mr. Chang served as the chair of the Public Works and Sustainability Committee, where he oversaw roads, sewers, water, and waste disposal. He also served as vice chair of the Budget Committee. Before we begin our discussion, let's take a look at the demographic makeup of State Senate District 9.
State Senate District 9 includes more than 53,000 residents living in the east and urban Honolulu communities of Hawaii Kai, Kuli'o, New Valley, Aina Haina, Iwilei, Kahala, Diamond Head, and Waikiki. The median age is just over 47 years. The breakout by race, alone or in combination, is 41.6% Caucasian, 68.1% Asian, and 10.6% Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. 14.8% of the residents are foreign-born, and nearly 21% speak a language other than English. There are 14,438 families in the district. The average household has 2.7 persons, and the household income is just over $103,000. 96.4% of residents graduated from high school, and 52.6% have a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of an owner-occupied housing unit is $816,000, and the median rental fee is $2,000 per month.
We'll start off tonight with Senator Chang and Slom. You know, you're 74 years old. You've had some health issues this year, pretty well publicized. Mm-hmm. What keeps you going?
Well, I enjoy what I'm doing. Every once in a while, we do something right, but we're able to help people, and that's really a gratifying thing. You know, my little business card, not printed at taxpayer expense, says State Senator. So from my standpoint, I've always treated the state as my bailiwick, and we get a lot of calls from neighbor island people that want help. They feel that their particular representative may not be accessible or may not be helping them. So I'm very proud that I've got a tremendous staff. We do a lot of follow-up, and we're able to help people. And along the way, we actually get to pass some good legislation. But I'm the only legislator on all Senate committees, on all ad hoc committees, and a representative of the Senate by my Democrat colleagues for a number of different positions and all that. So I enjoy it.
Sometimes it feels like you have to speak on every measure, too.
Well, it's really funny, Daryl. You know, I'll be sitting in a committee, and somebody will come from next door, and they'll say, Senator Slom, we need you for a quorum. And I'm saying, wait a minute, there's 24 of them, there's one of me, why do you need me for a quorum? But I've tried to be very diligent in terms of being participatory to help my colleagues we've worked together. As far as the health issue, I've been really upfront about that. My doctors have given me a go sign. If I weren't in good health, I wouldn't be making this race. But they say I'm good for another 100,000 miles. So I think I still have things to do. I view elective office as part of your civic responsibility. Don't use it as a stepping stone. I've never run for anything else other than the state Senate. And as I say, I enjoy it and hope I can still contribute.
Okay, thanks. Stanley Chang, what prompted you to run for this race?
You know, it all goes back to my parents. They're both immigrants from China. They got here with nothing. My dad actually started out as a beach boy in Waikiki, but you know, over time he was able to buy a home, to put my brother and me through school, give us opportunities we never could have had literally anywhere else in the world. Fast forward to when I graduate high school, 90% of my class went off to college on the mainland. Most have not come back. My brother lives in Dallas now, where he's bought a house that is bigger, nicer, newer than our house here, and it was literally 1/5 of the price. And you know, for young people today and for future generations, we're now facing a situation where we're the highest percentage of people working 2 or more jobs in the country, the highest percentage of both parents working in the country. It's getting harder and harder to make ends meet. The median home price has now exceeded $750,000. I don't know anyone in my generation who has $150,000 lying around for a down payment. And so I'm running to hopefully bring a better future for our generation, for every future generation of people in Hawaii.
Let me ask, though, specifically for this particular seat, you left the council after 4 years, then you ran for Congress. Why choose this particular state Senate seat?
Well, I firmly believe that the people of East Honolulu deserve a state senator and deserve elected officials who both are able to listen and able to deliver. That's why I've knocked on, in the last year alone, over 10,000 doors. I don't think people should be expected to, testify at the state legislature or even attend a community meeting to make their opinions known. I think it's the responsibility of our elected officials to actually make the time to interview each of us, to visit with us, to deeply understand the concerns of the district, and even more than that, to deliver. So back in 2010, when I was running for the city council, knocked on 19,000 doors. The number one issue, you might not have known it from reading the press, it was not something headline grabbing like taxes. The number one issue was roads. And that's why when I got to the city council, worked very diligently, tripled the road maintenance program at the city and county, not just for East Honolulu, but for the whole island. And so if you're a resident of New Valley or Aina, Kulia'o, Hahaione Valley, Kaimuki, any of these communities that have newly repaved roads, you know the value of an elected legislator who will listen and who will deliver.
Let me ask, when you have a vigorous race like this, and right now the Republican Party seems to be in some disarray, both locally and nationally.
Sure.
Are you a little concerned about that, running as a Republican in this atmosphere right now?
No. I'm running on my record. I'm running on my experience. And I would just like to comment on what my opponent said. Not only have I listened over the years, and people know that, but I hear what they say, and I have been able to deliver. But I disagree with him. I think that people should be encouraged to participate. We help a lot of people that have never come down to the Capitol before, that have never testified before, and they become part of it. They also have been very successful, and we've been successful in trying to help them. So I want to see more people involved, but I've been at times a lone voice for talking about no new taxes, reducing the tremendous cost of living that we have in Hawaii. And we have monopolies in Hawaii. We've got a power monopoly. We've got monopoly in the state government. We've had one party in control for 60 years. So I think the voters should ask, if you have one party in control, why aren't the schools better? Why aren't the roads better? Why aren't the sewers fixed? Why do we have these things if it hasn't been any obstruction from Republicans or anybody else? So I think that's a basic difference between the two of us.
Let me ask another point that I think that is going to be top of mind to voters this year, Stanley Chang. We're expecting to see during this legislature possibly a request for more money for the city's rail system, probably a request once again for more money for roads, both of which might include tax increases. How would you feel about how would you deal with that kind of a question if it came down the line?
I think tax increases are going to be the absolute last resort in any of these types of situations. With the rail in particular, I've been very troubled by the cost overruns. I've been very troubled by a lot of unanswered questions as to what's going on, why, what the different options are at this point. Until last week, I'd have said there was, frankly, not a lot of accountability. But now that the chair of the board have resigned, as well as the executive director, I think we need to focus on the path forward at this point. We've started the project. We have to finish it. And I think there are a number of options that we need to explore much more deeply, whether they be tax increment financing, looking at different ways to make the project more efficient, returning, as you might know, the state's 10% skim from the top of the GET extension to the city. And I think there are a number of different alternatives we should look at before we even start to talk about revenue enhancement.
But you're not ruling out supporting an extension of the excise tax?
That's right. I don't think we can rule out anything until we understand the full picture.
I can rule that out. I voted against it. I've spoken against it. People that know me know that going back to 2005, I raised the alarm about this rail project, which was ill-conceived. It never had a business plan that would work. We never got truthful figures from the state or from the city council, as a matter of fact. And unlike my opponent, I've always voted against the tax increases and demanded accountability, which we have not gotten. The project should be stopped. I've listened to the people in East Honolulu in the 9th District. They don't want this project. We've got so many other financial liabilities, unfunded liabilities for the employees' retirement system, for the state employees' health system, for sewers, for roads, for water and all of that. And yet we're committing money, endless money. That's why I spoke against the extension 2 years ago in the state legislature. I note from the paper that Joe Suki, the Speaker of the House, is already saying that he'll be Speaker again and he's going to push for an extension, as well as gasoline tax increases, motor vehicle registration increases, and all of these other increases. Unlike my opponent, I've been a very staunch advocate and sometimes the only voice against these tax increases. And I think that it's really important. And if you're not able to say, no, I won't support it, I think then the people have a right to ask, what kind of representation are we really getting?
So you're an outright no. Go ahead and stop the project.
Outright no.
And you say you want to continue the project all the way through. What is the what philosophical difference do we have here? I mean, is it really correct to say that you could just stop this project? What do you think?
I mean, I haven't heard anyone say that we should tear down what's already been constructed. The voters spoke. There's miles and miles of elevated track already. I think at this point we have to bring to fruition what so many billions of dollars have already been invested in our transportation infrastructure. And really, for me, this project is not just about transportation. It's about the future of Hawaii. So I don't think for the future that we should be continuing to pave over our agricultural, our conservation lands. I think our future generations are going to have to live in the so-called smart growth, the high-density, transit-oriented types of residences that are going to be situated along a rail line. This is what all the world's major cities do. This is the sustainable way to grow as a community. And that's ultimately, I think, what this project represents, not necessarily in the next 5 years or 10 years, but in the next 100 years, in the next 200 years.
One more question on rail to Sam.
Yeah, sure.
The Chamber of Commerce, for example, supports the rail project and is very anxious to have it built.
From the beginning, yes.
And as an overall economic influencer, a way to grow the economy, not just jobs there, but as Mr. Chang described. So how often do you find yourself at odds with the Chamber of Commerce on an issue like this?
Well, I think that's part of my advocacy over 20 years. I've been independent. While I believe in development, it's got to be good development. So I voted against certain development plans. And as I say, from the very beginning, I was opposed to this rail transit plan because it never had a chance. Doesn't have a chance now. It doesn't make sense. We haven't gotten the truth. We didn't get the truth from Mr. Grabowskis or from Hart or from the City Council. And I think it's important. I wasn't calling for tearing down what's been done. Panos Providoros from the engineering department of the University of Hawaii has always had positive suggestions of what we can do if we stop at Middle Street and we can utilize the existing infrastructure for buses and BRT and things like that. I want to make one other point, though. My opponent just said we shouldn't be paving over agricultural lands, and yet when he was on the council, he voted for Ho'opili and the idea of going from prime agricultural land that many of us, most of us, opposed to residential development, more houses, more transportation, more congestion.
Your response?
I'm very proud of our record on conservation. That's why at the City Council, when I heard the concerns from the residents of East Honolulu about potential development, when I ran for the City Council, there were lawsuits being threatened about a certain parcel called the Hawai'i Heiau Keavava wetland parcel. The developers wanted to turn that habitat of the endangered alai ula bird into luxury condominiums. And after many years of rancor, through hard work with the constituents, with all the different stakeholders, we were able to secure funding from the city's Clean Water and Natural Lands Fund, and now that parcel, that habitat is going to be preserved in perpetuity. The same goes for the Ha'o Street parcel, again the subject of a very controversial development program, and even now we're seeing recently rumblings about development on Piko Ridge. We worked very hard to try to preserve that parcel, and I hope that very much that we are going to be able to preserve that parcel for future generations.
This goes right to a point. We go to some of our viewer questions have started coming in. What about development in East Honolulu? Aren't we at capacity, Sam?
Well, for a long period of time, we didn't have any development at all. And then there were all kinds of plans to do that. And one of the most recent developments was the rental housing at 7,000 Hawaii Kai Drive. It's an experiment in having affordable housing, which really is more affordable than if you're talking about Kakako and other areas. And it's unique in the fact that
Honolulu
it's
pretty much unaffordable.
And it's rental housing. You've got competing interests. You've got people that say, we don't want any more development, and then you've got families that want to say, well, what about our kids? Where are they going to live? What about the people that want to do this? Because in those stats that you gave at the very beginning, you didn't have a stat for how many kids are living at home with their parents because they can't make it. I agree with Stanley about that. It shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't have these tremendous costs. And there are suggestions about how to make them less. But you can't do that if you've got a monopoly political system that doesn't know anything else other than more development and more expenditures. And that's what we've done.
It sounds like what Senator Slom is saying is that you do need to leave room for some additional development in the area, at least for affordable housing. Is that what you're saying?
Sure.
How do you feel about that? Would you agree with additional development there if it meant more affordable housing in your district?
The East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan, which is a document that's worked on by many, many different stakeholders. It's a long public process. It's a document that takes years to revise. It's said for years that there should be little to no growth in East Honolulu. So I think our communities in East Honolulu are very special. I don't think that we can handle a lot more traffic, a lot more noise, a lot more overcrowding in East Honolulu. And that's why I think it's important that we follow the decisions that have been made, a lot longer than I've been around, which is to direct growth to the central and western parts of the island through a transit-oriented smart growth strategy.
Well, let me just say that, again, I didn't call for a lot of development or growth. I said that there are competing interests. And some of the projects that Stanley had mentioned earlier are projects that I worked on and supported in terms of Kaiwi, Piko, the wetlands, all of these projects. The organizations, though, that really deserve credit for this are organizations like Livable Hawaii Kai. These are citizens that, without government, they initiated the progress, and they determined through open meetings, things like that, what our direction would be. Representative Gene Ward and I had a hearing a couple of years ago about development at the Great Lawn across from Honolulu Bay. We didn't want it. We had about 400 people that attended. About 395 didn't want it either. But Bishop Estate is still lurking in the background trying to develop that into yet another fourth shopping center. So those of us that have been in elective office have listened to the people, we have acted, and so far we've kept that kind of development away.
Okay, let me move on to another viewer question. What are your thoughts on the state's $1 billion end-of-the-year fiscal surplus? The administration just announced that they're estimating it'll be $1 billion a year. What do you think should happen with that money?
This carryover amount from the state is a record, I believe, and I think there are so many different competing priorities at this point that are so urgent. I think it's really important to take a look at some of them. We're starting the school year with the lowest teacher salaries in the country. when you adjust for the cost of living, and that's why we have over 600 substitute teachers, not even full teachers, taking those duties, over 1,000 throughout the course of the year. We have classrooms that are too hot for students to learn in. Just today, I would not have wanted to be a student in a classroom that would have been over 90 degrees in East Honolulu. There's obviously the costs that have been associated with the Maui hospital situation. There are any number of competing priorities, and I think it's important that we take a look at all of them in a comprehensive way before deciding anything moving forward.
We'll come around to see if we get a little more specific answer about what the first priority would be, but Senator Slom, $1 billion surplus at the end of the year, what does that tell you? And what
well,
would you do with that money?
number one, Stanley is correct. It's a carryover. It's not a surplus. It's a carryover from last year's surplus, and we're talking about the period that ended June 30th of this year. People don't understand the fiscal realities of Hawaii. We are not diversifying our economy. We are not adding new revenues. We keep trying to talk about taxing the same small tax base over and over again. So what I said was, first of all, it's an indication that we're overtaxed. We've always been overtaxed. The fact that we have that much money. Secondly, the legislature, in its wisdom a couple of years ago, did away with the idea of returning money to the taxpayers. I believe that the money should go back to the taxpayers, because look what's happening. You've got the HSTA already lobbying for more of that money for teacher salaries. You got the HGEA asking for more money. You've got different competing interests. The fact of the matter is we spend too much, and we're not spending time developing and improving our business and investment climate. And that's what we've got to do. The governor has to bring us a 6-year budget every year, brings that to the legislature. Legislature passes 2 years. But of those 6 years, all 6 years were in deficit position in January of this year. And the only reason that the 2 years turned out to be balanced was because of the carryover from the year before, and also because of borrowing. We've got to be more sensible in what we do. My office, the Minority Research Office, has had an alternative state budget for 7 years now. We have an open budget application that we developed on a nonpartisan basis. We want people to know more about the budget because this affects each and every one of us, and we don't talk about that. So instead of talking about ways of spending the money, we should find out about taking care of our unfunded liabilities and paying down some of the debt that we've got.
I've got a couple of social issues that have come in from viewers, and I want to honor our viewers by getting to some of these. This one actually goes to you, Senator Slom. You describe yourself as a senator for the entire state, but every bill related to the LGBT community, he votes against it. Does he feel LGBT is not part of the state?
Oh, no, and it's not true. I voted against several bills, and I've supported several bills, if you check the record, which, by the way, my record is very transparent. It's online. It's available anywhere. I don't like dividing people by labels only. And even within the LGBT community, you've got people that are in small business, people that are interested in the tax implications and everything else. So when you try to represent people, you also want to use your experience in business, your experience in fiscal matters, and try to do the right thing. I'll stand by my votes. And as I say, if you look at my record in totality, you'll find that I have given everybody a fair shake, have listened, and given them the best example of what I think my experience is.
Your own position on that issue, the LGBT rights for same-sex couples, for transgenders, that sort of thing?
I would be a champion. This state has a great legacy in the progressive movement. We were the first state to legalize a woman's right to choose. We were the first state to establish near universal health care. And I think we need to continue to build on that tradition by making clear that our Aloha spirit extends equality to everybody, no matter what your sexual orientation might be, whether you're a minority, no matter what your ethnicity might be, your religion. And I don't think that as a state that we should be trying to impose discrimination on any subgroup, which is why I'm so proud to be a Democrat in this state.
Would you say this is one of the biggest differences between you being progressive on the one hand and more on the conservative side on the other? Or? Well,
yeah, with all that implies, because I'm for a free market, I'm for economic incentives, and whether you're talking about a sexual orientation or anything else, listen, I have no problem with anybody's lifestyle as long as they don't try to pass legislation to force me or my family to do something. And I've always championed their rights to do that. And as I say, you can't look at people as being one-dimensional, because they've got to be interested in what the economic opportunities are for themselves, for their children, for their families, and everything else. So to look at things in just a one-dimensional way, or to try to categorize people, I think is the wrong way of doing it.
Let me throw out another question from a viewer. What is your biggest public works priority? I have to tell you that a lot of people look at East Honolulu and think, those guys got everything. But what does it think in terms of the public works, infrastructure or roads, highways? What's the biggest need of your district? What do people think that you really need to work on?
You know, East Honolulu is a really big and diverse place. A home in Diamond Head and a home in Hawaii Kai, a home in Kaimakī, a home in New Valley. These are very, very different people with very different needs. One of the issues that frankly has left my head scratching is why Kalihi and Iwilei Highway, which has been repaved to a great extent, the last section from Haina to the H1 has yet to be repaved. A number of members of the state legislature have fought very hard to ensure that the entire highway is repaved. It's not in great shape, and I think that that's one prominent example where the state needs to finish the job.
Senator Slom?
Well, roads and transportation and traffic, of course, are a big item. But these days, they pale in comparison to our district's concern about homelessness, just like every other place. We were one of the last areas to have the impacts of homelessness. It's all around us right now, and everybody is concerned. The Marina Association, for example, cleared out an area because there was a lot of homeless there. Bishop Estate across from the post office just cleared out a parcel because there was homeless there. When we go to neighborhood boards every month, it's something that people are concerned about. My constituents, our constituents, they're always talking about, what are you going to do with it? And so while, you know, transportation and that kind of infrastructure does take an important part, it's these other issues, I think, that have leapfrogged over that, and we've got to do something about it. We haven't done it. We haven't enforced existing laws, and with all the money that we have spent and are spending, we still haven't solved this problem.
How much do you think homelessness is a concern in your district? And another question for both of you is, would you support a homeless shelter, for example, in your district to take care of the homeless people that you might have out there?
Oh, it's a huge issue. You know, in this year, I've knocked on over 10,000 doors, and today the #1 issue is homelessness. East Honolulu has some of the island's fastest growing rate of homelessness. I live in Kahala. There are homeless people who live under the highway. There are homeless people living in their car across the street from me. This is not an issue that is confined to any one prominent hotspot or any few prominent hotspots. This is really an island-wide issue. So I think the response and the solution has to be an island-wide response too. There's two kinds of people. I think there are those who think that solving homelessness is easy and those who think that solving homelessness is hard. I'm not one of those who thinks that we should just lock them all up and throw away the key or give everybody a one-way ticket. I think that it's going to take a lot of different plans. It's going to take a lot more shelters like the one on Sand Island, the shipping container shelter that you might have seen recently. That was an initiative of ours at the City Council. It took over 3 years to come to fruition. But it's a step in the right direction. I think we need to do more housing first, which is the national best practice. Both the city and the state have been doing it, but I think it needs to be expanded dramatically in scope. I also think I'm personally encouraged by at least one really innovative new idea that I heard recently when I knocked on a nurse's door. And she was working for a pharmacy, and she, to her knowledge, was the only person who actually would make house calls, deliver psychiatric medications to homeless people in the field where they were, because I don't think that we can necessarily expect homeless people who suffer from psychiatric disorders to be able to consistently fill their own prescriptions and go into a pharmacy. I would love to see that
Just
program.
to be a little more specific in the question is, do you think your constituents would also support having an area of homeless like a Sand Island in your district?
You know, I think every site for every Potential shelter has to be, it's very site specific. I don't think we can make any broad generalizations. I think we would need to examine carefully every potential site, its impact on its neighbors, and if there is a site that doesn't have necessarily an impact on a residential neighborhood or whatever, homeless people are in East Honolulu today, and I think we, like every other community in the island, has a responsibility to help be part of the solution.
Let me ask Senator Slom, do you get the same read from your constituents that homelessness is the #1 issue on their minds?
Absolutely.
And would you also support having something in your district if it came to that?
Depending on where it would be, how it would be constructed and all of that, yes, I think that is possible. But again, I don't know of anybody that thinks that the homeless issue is an easy issue to solve. We watched it grow and grow and grow. We also, I think, although we've spent a lot of money, over $200 million so far, we still kind of treat the homeless as one group, and it's not. We've got the veterans, we've got people with mental problems, we have people that have other concerns and all that, and you can't do it as a one amorphous kind of situation. And that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, but we have been putting the money into it. But it shows, again, not just money. Money will not solve this problem alone.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left. The time is something we don't have a whole lot of.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and go through some of these questions quickly. First of all, a couple of questions on the two-party system. One person says, I support Senator Slom, even though I'm not a Republican, because we need a two-party system, and without you, there might be only one party in the state Senate. Another person saying that they disagree with you about this description of the Democratic Party as a monopoly. Caller feels that Democratic Party is very diverse and represents Hawaii well. Sam, do you ever make the argument that you need to vote for me because otherwise the Republican Party might die in the state Senate?
No, I haven't made that argument, and I know full well of all the elections I've been in, and I've always had tough competition. I don't get elected by Republican votes alone. I get elected with Democrat votes, with independent votes, because I do listen, I do hear, and I do deliver. And I'm very accountable for what I do. And the kinds of programs that I've always introduced, initiative, referendum, recall, term limits, these are people empowering kinds of legislation. The Democrats, the majority party, don't support those kinds of things. And if you didn't have a different kind of voice, then none of these issues would come to fruition. I try to be, to disagree on certain things without being disagreeable. And I think my record speaks for itself on that area.
How do you respond to that in that, would you feel, you're obviously running against him, you obviously want to defeat the only state senator who's a Republican, which is, but does a little part of you go, that would be too bad to have no Republicans in the state Senate?
The first thing that I learned on the City Council, which is a nonpartisan body, is that there's no such thing as a Democrat pothole or a Republican pothole. I don't think anyone is for partisanship for partisanship's own sake. I mean, just look at the mess in Washington today, or for that matter, ask the framers of our federal Constitution who never once mentioned parties. I think the issue is, should we have an ideological diversity within every legislative body, such as the state Senate? And I think if you just look within the Democratic caucus, the 24 members in the Democratic caucus in the state Senate, whatever your position might be on any range of issues, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, pro-marriage equality or anti-marriage equality, there will be at least one Democratic senator that agrees with you. So I would argue that actually, no matter what your position on the ideological spectrum, there will be at least one Democratic senator that advocates for that, which I think causes a lot of very lively discussions, a lot of lively debates, which is great for the marketplace of ideas.
Okay, one more question now, and I think this is someone trying to make trouble. So, what does each candidate believe is the most significant deficiency of the other on the issues? In other words, what one or two things can you think of that is a reason that they shouldn't elect?
Well, I would say if you look at Stanley's record of supporting tax increases, of supporting the rail, of his attempt to rename Sandy Beach President Obama Beach, the vote for Ho'opili to get rid of agricultural land, I think that's part of it. The other part of it, though, is lack of experience. It's one thing to be able to knock on doors. It's another thing to be in office and to deliver. And I think there was a problem when he was in the council in terms of coming to neighborhood boards and being able to answer questions. And that's why he stopped coming to those neighborhood boards. I've been there. I will continue if the public wants me to do so. The media is wrong when they talk about Senator Slom's seat. It's not my seat. It's the public seat. Whatever they decide, that's fine with me.
Okay, same question to you. What do you think about Senator Slom? Is a reason people should not vote for him?
You know, I actually have a great deal of respect for Senator Slom. He's served our community for 20 years, and I think anybody who has put themselves out there for so many years really deserves a lot of respect for all the sacrifices, all the hard work that goes into that. So, you know, I think that is where we should start from. I don't think this election is about any individual person. I think it's about a different philosophy, and I think that for me, it's important to you know, not just grandstand, to not just engage in partisan bickering. You know, that's the easy part. The hard part is actually to get into the room with all the different stakeholders who may or may not disagree with you, to make the hard choices, to be able to work with people of all different backgrounds, and to be able to deliver. And that means repaving roads all across East Honolulu. That means preserving some of the most important parcels of conservation land now in perpetuity for future generations. That means banning smoking at our parks and beaches and bus stops. That means supporting raising the smoking age to 21. I think that our record of delivering for the people of East Honolulu speaks for itself.
Okay, well, thank you both, you gentlemen, and good luck on November 8th.
Thank you,
It's going to be interesting. And now we're going to move on to the candidates for State House. Before we do that, let's take a look at a Hikino story that features one of the communities in that district. Let's see how some Kalihi junior high and high school students spend their time after school.
Do you ever wonder where many students from Kalihi go after school? On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays from 3:30 to 5 p.m., talented young teenagers are dancing at Kalihi YMCA.
This program is cool because it helps kids become more confident, and parents love it because it's free.
When I first came up here, I seen high schooler boys breakdancing. They were all doing power moves and everything, and I was like so jealous of them. So I was thinking, maybe I should just follow my quote, never give up what you love doing, even if you're good or bad at it. And like, if I practice more and more, then I'd probably end up like them.
On Black Friday 2012, there was a huge downpour that collapsed the roof of the Farrington High School auditorium. And so when we heard that news, you know, we didn't have a dance spot no more. But then after the collapse, you know, we started going back to the Kalihi YMCA.
Students from Kalakaua Middle, Dole Middle, and Farrington High meet on the second floor in the Phil Chun activity room. They practice breakdancing and choreography.
If you want to be a dancer, you should come to the YMCA after school. Like, be inspired by other dancers, and make sure you take that first step to know that you want to be a dancer. Then just practice every day here. Me and my brother also teach an additional style. We teach popping to the little middle school kids because it's mainly breakdance in there, but we want to add some diversity inside it.
Dancing can help kids stay away from violence, drugs, and gangs. Let's see what other people have to say about dancing.
Personally, I come to the YMCA because it's a place, like, it's an outlet of expression for me to come here and dance, whether it's just training in the workroom or just dancing here. Like, it promotes that overall sense of healthy lifestyle that the YMCA provides here. And I think it's good for kids to come here because, like, being raised in Kalihi, you're exposed to a lot of violence, and in fact, whether it's drugs or like gang violence, it keeps kids like to really stay away from that, and this is a place to be.
So the reason why I think dancing is a good element to have in your life is that it could take you out of the trouble you're in or whatever you're going through in your life at the time. Like me, I'm a smoker that's trying to quit, so I'm trying to get back into dancing, but I can feel the negative impact smoking has made on my body physically, so it's motivating more to quit smoking.
Some people may think dance is a waste of time. However, for these students from Kalihi, dance is good exercise, keeps them engaged in positive activities, and is a lot of fun. This is Matthew Kabibi reporting from Farrington High School for Hikino.
Now, for the candidates that represent the district that Farrington is in, State House District 29, which includes Chinatown, Kalihi, and Iwilei on Oahu, the incumbent Karl Rhoads left the seat to run for state senate. Let's meet the candidates who will compete to replace him in the House. Kaiwiola Coakley is the Republican candidate for House Seat 29. He currently works for a nonprofit organization which specializes in organ recovery for transplant. Before taking his current position, Mr. Coakley worked with special needs clients at the Ark of Kona and worked with HIV and AIDS patients at the Waikiki Health Center. Daniel Holt is running as a Democrat and is currently the Assistant Sergeant-at-Arms for the Hawaii State Senate. Before accepting the post, Mr. Holt was the Legislative Director for former Senate President Donna Mercado Kim. Mr. Holt also served as the former chairman of the Kalihi Palama Neighborhood Board. Before we begin our discussion, let's take a quick look at the demographic makeup of State House District 29.
State House District 29, with 24,422 residents, covers Kalihi, Palama, Iwilei, and Chinatown. The median age is 41.2 years. Alone or in combination, more than 78% of the residents are Asian, 15.7% Caucasian, and 19.1% say they're Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. There are just over 5,000 families in the district, and the average household income is $39,154. 21.9% of all residents and 19.2% of all families are living below the poverty level. Just over 62% speak a language other than English. The median value of an owner-occupied housing unit is just under $379,000, and the median monthly rental fee is $771.
Let's start off with a kind of a personal question. Daniel Holt, what experiences in your personal life would you say have most prepared you for public office?
Well, I'm born and raised in the district, lifelong resident. My family's been there for 3 generations, over 50 years in the same family home. I have a long history in my family. My father was a state senator as well, so I kind of grew up in politics. I've also been working at the legislature for about 7 years now in a number of different capacities that give me a lot of different perspectives of the legislative process and how things work and how we can help our community. I feel like people are disencouraged with the government, and I feel like I could be a good bridge to help them bring it back to something where they could understand in a more understandable level.
And Kaiwiola Coakley, your own career has been one of, sounds like, social service for the most part. What there and in your personal life has prepared you for running for office? What made you want to run for office in the first place?
I just seen such a disconnect with government and the people. I really felt that the government hasn't been listening to the voices of the people. And the work that I've done with HIV and AIDS and my missionary work in the Philippines, I've always felt inspired to empower the voices of the people so that they can be empowered to be the solution in government. Many times we rely on government to solve our problems, but I think the biggest solution is empowering people, and they can become the solution to all the biggest problems that we face.
You mentioned missionary work in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. Is part of your faith part of why you're doing this too?
I'm running as a Republican because I believe in God, and the Constitution is founded on Christian principles. And so that's, to answer your question, yes.
Okay, and Daniel Holt, you mentioned your dad, and I knew your dad, I covered him. His story is particularly amazing, what he went through. How did you learn from what he went through and what you saw?
You learn from positive things as well as negative things. And, people who know the story know how it went. But I've taken all of that and I've used it to my benefit. I've never really thought and sought to get back into politics, but I ended up working in the Ways and Means Committee with Senator Donna Kim, and things just kind of made sense. Things just kind of clicked. And if this is my way that I can give back to the community, if I can help out, I know a lot of people look at me and think, like, why would you want to get back into it? But I feel like I can make a difference. I can help out. So, like he said, the people are disencouraged, disenfranchised. If I can build that bridge, if I can bring them back and get them involved in the process, have them understand more, then, if I can help one person, it's a positive.
So, but you're surrounded by these senators, and yet you're kind of agreeing people feel disempowered. What have they been doing wrong that you would do different?
Communication. I mean, people just see a politician, they see a face, but you have to connect with them. As I've been knocking on the doors, I've been standing on the streets, and you see the kids and they look at me and they see, like, I'm just like them. I grew up in the same neighborhoods. I've been to the same, Palama settlement, and I'm more relatable. I mean, not to say that other politicians aren't relatable, but you have to be able to communicate be able to communicate from the top down. You know, you have to be able to talk to very high-profile people, but then explain the same message to somebody down the street.
Okay, now talking about the neighborhoods, we have a piece of interview with someone from the district. What about the future of these communities? We heard from one young mother who deals with typical challenges of many families, and she actually thinks quite a bit about moving away.
Yes, I think about that daily, especially now with her, you know, she's getting, yeah, it's worrisome. I know standards are higher for education, but the area is changing a lot. There's a lot of new developments, a lot of new people. Roads were always an issue here on the island, and more so in this area in particular. It is painful. It's hard. It's very hard. I mean, my other half and I, we try our best to make ends meet and whatever, but cost of living, I think it's just gonna get worse. For Kalihi in particular, it's just so congested. I mean, for affordable housing and whatnot, but we could definitely use it. I mean, I'm starting my family, my sisters are starting their families, you know. It's just, ooh, it'll help, definitely.
Kaiwiola, Coakley, what about her statement? What jumps out as you as something that you'd really like to respond to?
I can feel just the emotional connection when she talks about the struggle of making ends meet. And that's why I'm totally against any new tax increases, because our government needs to be fiscally responsible and accountable for taxpayers' money. A lot of the projects that we've funded with taxpayer money the government hasn't been responsible with those projects and with the monies. I know what the struggle is like, and we need to be smart about how we use our money, about budgeting.
Daniel Holt, when you heard her statements, what jumped out at you as something that you would like to address right away?
Well, one of the first things that I noticed from her statement was new. And for a lot of times, new is bad. You know, that's not always the case. You know, the government services we have in place could help somebody like that. We have a lot of government programs, and a lot of times it's just connecting the people with the programs, letting them know what's there, letting them know what kind of assistance is available for them. Because the government does a lot of wonderful things, but people are not always make the best use of it. If I can, you know, take them down there, show them where the clinic is or whatever help they do need, it's there for them, and we just have to lead them to the water.
You know, Kaiwiola, Coakley, when you talk about no new tax increases and don't spend much more money, you're in a district that has a lot of needs, right? There's violence in the district, there's struggling schools, public housing, a lot of infrastructure problems, a lot of road problems. How would those things get addressed if there's not more money going into government?
Well, for example, the homelessness issue, which is bringing a lot of crime and drugs into the communities. I see that our government is trying to build new things that are costing tens of millions of dollars, bring people in from the mainland, and just trying to direct how we should do things here in Hawaii. But what we can do, for example, is neighborhood security watches. That doesn't cost much money. We can connect the dots between, for example, HPD. We can see what's already being done, what initiatives are in the community. We have Kalihi Palama, they have homelessness services. We have Waikiki Health. We have IHS. They're doing a lot of good work. But what we need to do is just see what they're doing well and see where they're falling short, connect the dots, bring them together. And that's what I plan to do as a legislator, is to bring people together, because I feel that we already have the solution. We don't need more taxes in order to do that. We just have to be smart about how we use our resources.
Do you think Daniel Holt, he's correct about that, or do you think that there needs to be more money put particularly in a district like yours?
I would agree that we do have the money. We do need to be more accountable with the money that we do have. You know, working in the many capacities, I was a committee clerk for Senator Kim in the Special Committee on Accountability following the Stevie Wonder blunder. And, you know, in that few months alone, we uncovered a whole lot of money that was being misspent, you know, going unchecked. And it's not only the university. A lot of our departments spend money. And if we just crack down on that, keep them more accountable, like he mentioned, not making more and more new projects to spend millions and millions on, but to make sure that we take care of the things that they spent the money on 5 years ago. Did the project get finished? Was it on time? We can control those things.
You know, being in the Senate as an employee, you see how things work over there, and you know that there's pork barrel. You know that there's the way money is distributed is not always fair. It doesn't always go exactly where it needs to go. How would you persuade, assuming that it's the same pie of money getting distributed, how would you persuade your colleagues that your district needs a lot more help?
Well, it's pretty evident. Our district is right outside of the Capitol. They can see the problems that we have. But, you know, it's working together. I would be one of 51 House members, and I would not be able to call the shots. Building relationships, you know, even working with our Senate colleagues and making sure that our community has a fair share of funds. It's just it's not a singular thing. It's a work in progress, and I will know the process and what I need to get done to make sure our community is fairly represented.
How would you tackle that challenge of persuading other people in the legislature, particularly if you're coming in, either of you would be a freshman? How would you do it? How would you approach this issue?
Exactly. It really is about collaboration because we have a problem that needs to be addressed and we need everyone's support. There needs to be communication and we have to have this collaborative effort. You know, and we just have to find out what are the needs and we have to bring that to the table. We have to bring that to everyone and just come with a solution where we can move together forward.
You know, one of the things that we're expecting to see in this next legislature is a couple of tax increase proposals. The governor is going to come back. He said can come back with more money, needs more money for highways. We can expect the county will come in and say it needs more for rail. Rail is a major feature in your district. Do you feel like it's important that rail come through and be built through your district, or would it be okay with you if it didn't make it any further than Middle Street?
Well, we've already agreed to extend the GE rail tax, and that's going to continue. A lot of people don't even know that the GE tax went up. And so, again, I have to say that we have to be responsible with the monies that we've taken from the taxpayers, and we have to keep this rail within budget. The mayor has to find someone for Hart as a CEO to be accountable to the people. And the last thing I would want to do is see this project over budget.
But would you be happy if it doesn't come through your district in order to stay on budget?
Well, I want to see the project succeed, of course. I think I've lived in Manila, in the Philippines, all over the world, and I see what benefits there are for public transportation and rail. That's something that we do need, but we have to be smart about how we complete this project.
Your own feelings about the rail project?
Well, the tax currently is only extended for 5 more years, so we will have to revisit that in the upcoming legislatures. But I do feel it needs to come through our district. It needs to go to Ala Moana at the very minimum, if not the university. Like you said, I've traveled to many countries and states where the rail transit is a huge part of the economy, and it's just a great benefit to all of our constituents. All the new condos being built down in Ward, I know that's not in our district, but it's a very, we need the rail. We will need to find money. I'm not committing to extending the GET tax, but we will need to find some source of money to make sure that the rail is built.
Well, rail will bring some very significantly new developments in your district. You support that?
Yes.
How about you? Do you feel that, Kaiwiola, do you feel like it's okay that there be more development in your district, more growth?
I believe growth is important. Just like the mother that was on the film earlier, you know, they need jobs, they need economic stimulation in the area, and that would benefit the people there.
Okay, good. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, one of the things I've been saying is being responsible development. It's inevitable. You know, Mayor Wrights is going to be redeveloped. The transient-oriented development stations are coming in. But our residents need to have a voice. We have community meetings, and the Mayor Wright residents don't even come out. So getting people to these meetings is another problem that we have, and something that I feel I can help out with in our community.
Okay, we've only got about 3 or 4 more minutes. It's been very quickly, and I want to make sure we get to our viewer questions. 2 questions about homelessness. One mentions the Kapalama Canal and homeless camps being washed away, and another question about what are you going to do about homelessness? Kaiwiola, Coakley, what do you think is the main solution about homelessness?
Homelessness, again, is just finding out what initiatives are taking place. I know that IHS is doing a lot of work. Kalihi Palama has mental health services. There are health services at IHS also. There's a lot of things going on. And like I said earlier, the solution is finding out where these organizations need the help the most.
Okay, your own thoughts about it. Quick, what do you think should be done that's different, that's not being done now?
I don't have an answer for that. It's a multifaceted, problem. It has to do with no affordable housing units, no good jobs, education. So homelessness is the popular topic, but it has a lot of different arms and legs to it.
Okay, I got time for about 30 seconds to answer this question for both of you, and I'll give it a shot. What do you want to do to improve Chinatown?
I want to make it safer. I want to make it safer for the residents there. They deserve a safe place to work and live.
Your own thoughts about
Definitely.
Chinatown?
Safety is number one, but we have a great opportunity to have a big, the art scene is building, and we have a lot of great restaurants down there. It's something we can build on for another tourist destination or anything, just for our residents. But yes, safety, and but we can make it thrive.
It's a very diverse district. It's a very interesting place, and both of you guys have been very interesting, and appreciate you being here today, and good luck in the general election on November 8th to both of you. Our election 2016 coverage continues next week with the candidates for State House District 22, which includes Waikiki, Ala Moana, and Kaka'ako, where homelessness is a top concern. Incumbent Democrat Tom Brower is seeking his 6th term in office. His challenger is retired businesswoman Republican Catherine Henske. Also joining us will be the candidates for State House District 3, which covers the areas of Hilo, Ke'au, Curtistown, and Volcano. The incumbent, Democrat Richard Onishi, now faces a Green Party candidate and a Libertarian in the general election. Thank you for watching Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now. A hui hou.